Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Corner Blue. This is episode number 33, and it's actually our anniversary episode. We haven't had a lot of time to record lately. It's been busy, but there's been a lot going on. Lately, Andres and I made it to the friendly match. We got to meet some of our listeners, and some of them said, hey, you guys need to post more. So here we are in celebration of our 1 year anniversary. We have a special guest today. Andres will let us know who he is in a few minutes, but thank you. It's always great to be here. It's good to know that there are people listening to us. I love hearing when people say, hey, you should record more of that podcast. I listen to it in the car and or when I'm making breakfast, or it's great to know that there's people interested in what we have to say. So welcome. Sure. And how are you doing, Andres? You were busy doing your video work, working hard with the camera, taking a lot of footage and editing and putting a really nice video out. How are you doing?
No, it was a lot of fun. Headed down to Sur Califas for the weekend. Got there Thursday night. Was in time to get to the training in Bell Gardens on Friday, and then obviously was able to make it to the match on Saturday against Costa Rica. And it was cool, dude. It was just basically I wanted to get some footage for the YouTube channel. We need content beyond just audio, so I thought it would be a great opportunity, and then just got behind the camera and went out there. It was good practice because it was with the new camera, so I had to learn, it was trial by air and fire and whatnot, but it was definitely fun being out there once again, seeing La Selecta in the flesh, because the last game that I had seen was at the LA Galaxy Stadium in 2015 during the Roca era, that ironically was a 0-0 draw too. And that was the last time we had kicked it. So it was, it was like a nice reunion tour of being able to meet up with you, kick it, see La Selecta, but also get behind the camera. It was nice seeing familiar faces like Jairo and Chalatillo, and also Pablo Rodas, who are the, leftover members of that U20 team that made it to Turkey. So it was cool reconnecting them briefly during training and whatnot, and just cool seeing the full cycle of them being at the national team after seeing them in the youth squad. So it was fun being out there. It was awesome seeing the crowd, seeing everyone with their blue kits. Like, I'm up in NorCal in the North Bay, which isn't necessarily known for being a hub of Salvadorans. So I grew up not being around too many Salvadoran fans other than my family. In my hometown, there was like one other Salvadoran family. Shout out to the Vasquez family. But yeah, it's always, it's impressive, and it's just such a nice feeling to show up to a sporting event and just seeing the sea of blue, seeing everybody with their kits, their vinchas, their hats, their bowler hats or whatever. It's just really cool to see that, and seeing just the pride that people have in their team, the excitement to see them play. And considering it wasn't necessarily the starting 11 that's going to be playing next Thursday, I feel like it was a pretty decent match, high intensity that we've seen throughout the Hugo Perez era was present. We saw a lot of debuts, which was important considering that Gerson Perez is starting to think of what pieces he's going to bring in from abroad to the U20 team that he's going to take over. So a lot of pros, definitely fun being pitch side. But what was it for you? Because this is round 2 of you being with La Selecta in the flesh, in your hometown area. What was it like being able to see them all once again?
It's fun. I'm really grateful for the opportunity that I have. I work hard for a lot of the things that I get to do now. I don't get to watch much of the game as I used to, because a field level, it's a little harder But it's always fun, it's always fun to see to. I mean, I guess I always felt part of the national team in terms of the fans, right? But it's a very special feeling to know that you're part of the actual team staff, and yeah, and just be able to to get to know people, to talk to people, people who listen to this podcast, people who know me from Selected Talent. And it was great. I mean, it was a great game. It was a great opportunity for a lot of guys to try to earn a spot. Obviously, they don't have it very easy. There's a very strong group that we already have of players, and for the local players, I mean, this seems like there's this conversation going on in El Salvador about the locals versus the foreigners. I don't think it should be that way. At the end of the day, they're El Salvador national team. They represent the country of El Salvador, regardless of where they were born. If they are eligible for the national team, it's because they are legally Salvadorians as well. But there are some things that are important to recognize. Hugo Perez has made it very clear, the level in which these other players play is higher than the level in the local league in El Salvador. It's just a reality. But games like this against an opponent like Costa Rica, who has a stronger league than ours, probably the strongest league in Central America, those games are always difficult. And I think it was a great opportunity for players who might be in the top 30. Maybe they're not in the top 23 list, but they're in the top 30, 35, to show the coach that they actually have what it takes to be in the list of 23. Before knowing the roster, obviously now we know the roster. And after watching the game, my personal opinion, not official opinion, this is just me speaking as a fan, I thought that Chalatillo Lemus was one of the players that took advantage of the opportunity. He hustled. I mean, we know this from Chalatillo from his U20 days. He hustles. He's a small guy, but he compensates with a lot of heart. His lack of height is not as noticeable because he works so hard to compensate with hustling and I don't want to say con huevos. I don't really like too much,
but in like a good sense, not making up for lack of talent by just trying hard. No, like
because
aggressive on the ball, shutting down opponents, positioning himself against guys that are like a foot taller than him, but he's all over them. Like it was impressive. Like you said, it's hard to watch the match exactly from pitch side, because you're as a fan, you're used to the perfect angle where you see the 22 players on the pitch when you're right there. And if you're not necessarily on the sideline, like I was in a corner, that perspective was rough too. But fortunately I was on that flank that Jairo and Chalatillo were. And I watched the footage and you see the movement. It's almost synchronized when they open out wide, when they check in towards the middle. They have this understanding, like a 1-2 understanding of the give and go plays that they set up. But when you saw Chalatillo on the defensive side of the ball, that's what kind of impressed me, is he closed these guys down. Like there were a few times when they had an opportunity, at least in the first half, on the left flank that he was covering. So it was great to see him, pull out another good performance, and it paid off because he's called up for the upcoming 3 matches. And as you touched upon, it seemed like there was this polemic trying to be started in El Salvador with some of the comments that Hugo Perez made that he's been making for years. This isn't anything new. We know that Hugo Perez is very opinionated in terms of the level of Salvadoran football, just as many players, coaches, and fans have been saying for years that, yes, it's almost reached this stagnation, this plateau. And we saw how that affected the national team in December, where it was mostly local players that played against a young U.S. team and got blown out. We see that when Forge goes into El Salvador and beats, the local champion, as what happened with FAS. But interestingly enough, despite Hugo saying, you know what, the truth is I can't really gauge, in all honesty, the level of our players by just seeing them day in, day out in a local league, because there's certain deficiencies and not being pushed to the right, to the right level. So it's hard for me to gauge, what do these guys look like against the US? What do these guys look like against Mexico? And so despite that, he did call up a bunch of new guys from the local league to this friendly match. You think of Steven, what's his name?
Steven Vasquez
from Águila. You think of Kevin Reyes. He called up
Carlos Osorio.
Yeah, Carlos Osorio. He called up Wilma Torres. And not all of them got called up for these next 3 matches, but you do have a Steven called up. You do have Kevin called up. And I think that kind of shows you that, despite his opinion and his observations of the domestic league, he's going to find those pieces. There's always going to be pieces available. And as long as they prove themselves, they're going to be called up. So that's why I think, people need to let go of that polemic, because I even remember watching the interview and you could see the faces of some of the interviewers, the journalists, where they were cringing, because I'm not gonna lie, like some of the stuff that he says is pretty direct, very opinionated. He doesn't sugarcoat things. And I remember talking to him that first time in September, and like there was some stuff that he was saying, like, oh he's gonna piss some people off, but I think that's what you get with Hugo Perez. He's very honest, very direct, but at the same time, it's not like he's menospreciando the domestic league or the national play. And you're seeing that through the moves that he's making, because you do have players that are in the USL, despite the debate of USL versus La Liga Mayor. You do have players in the USL that aren't a factor in this national team for whatever reason, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like every single player with Salvadoran blood, boom, is on this roster. That is not the case. So I think the proof is in the pudding, and people kind of just need to let that rest, where there's no bias. It's just reality. Whoever is at a level that can adapt will be there. Jerson mentioned it last time, where some of these players from the domestic league have to go through like a crash course in order to be fine-tuned to play at these top tier matches in the qualifiers. Unfortunately, we don't have that time. They wanted the players the whole week leading up to the first match with the US. For whatever reason, it didn't work out. But you're seeing them give confidence to the young guys, and I think that's very important.
Yeah. I think the players that we saw, that I saw, I think the fans probably saw something similar along the same lines, that show something different in that friendly game against Costa Rica. They're in that list for the qualifiers. But either they are in the 23s or in there's a group of 4 who he's calling them reserves, meaning they're ready to be called up if necessary. And that's where Harold Osorio is. The other guy from FAS, I just forgot his name. Kevin Reyes. And there's another player in that list. And as you saw, Alexis Renderos, who had been a constant player, and Chalatillo did something different. He probably did something more, or the coach saw a different potential to how he can utilize Chalatillo, and he's there. So the opportunity is there. The players have to take advantage of that opportunity. So when players are brought from abroad, the players, their mentality should be, I need to prove that I can do more than them. I need to prove to the coach that I have the talent needed to be in the national team more than those who are playing abroad. That's how they should approach the situation versus, oh, the coach is going to have preference to the ones who play abroad. And that's not the case. You mentioned there's Cristian Sorto, there's Alexis Cerritos, there is
Calvillo.
Justin Portillo, there is Calvillo, there's Gilbert Fuentes, there's Marcus Velado in the Canadian League. I mean, right there, I just mentioned 6, and I'm still missing a few players who play in the USL Championship. They're not being called up, so that tells you it's not necessarily about calling you just because you play in the USL or the MLS. It's because, one, you have to have certain characteristics that the coach is looking for, because that's one thing. You may have 2 good players, but their styles don't necessarily match what the coach is looking for, and that's what it comes down to. So I think the opportunity is equal. Yes, there's going to be a slight advantage or an advantage for those playing abroad because of the level that they are competing, because of the speed of the game in which they play. Obviously, they do have certain advantage because of that. That's part of the reason why a coach sometimes, not Hugo necessarily, but coaches require the local players to be able to work with them longer versus the ones who play abroad, because they tend to have an easier time adjusting to what the coach is looking for. So I thought Dominguez had a pretty decent game. I thought he showed that he's regaining that level that we were used to seeing in him, and he took advantage of that game. So those games are important. So despite the games not being on a FIFA fixture, it is a great opportunity for the local players, or for even other young players who may be signed with professional teams such as Rios. Rios played a great match, and show the coach that they actually have what it takes to be in the national team. So it was, not only was it a great experience for me to be there watching the game at field level, but I also, was looking at, let's see which player shines this time and shows that they have something special to be able to be considered for the national team. Because just like we saw those, such as Chalatillo, we also saw other players who really struggled.
Yeah. And especially on the right flank. Wilma, he's been doing well with FAS. He had a great goal against Forge the previous week. I did like him in training. It seemed like he was adjusting to the speed with which they were playing in training. But yeah, the attack was very disjointed on the right flank. And just from watching some of the footage, it just seemed like he was one decision too slow, like one beat too slow. Like there was one attack that he could have easily played a through ball towards the left, and he had Heidel running in, but he hesitated and instead took contact, and there was a foul, but it was just way too far to truly be, a set piece that could do damage. But just little things like that you notice, either watching the game and then in this case, some of the footage. But I'm glad he gave him the shot. Hopefully along the way, he's able to take advantage of any other opportunity that comes his way. But yes, you see that in order for the system to work, they all need to be making the right decisions at the right moment and at the right speed. Some of them flourished, and then, some of them did not do as well. And this list that came out today reflects that. He's seen the pieces that can adjust, the ones that can do this crash course that they've mentioned before, and that can help with the depth, because it's 3 matches within like a span of a week. That's insane. That's like what high school kids have to go through, and you think it's torture for them, and we're talking about 3 top tier matches with a lot on the line. You have to have that depth, and I think Dominguez getting that rhythm back is perfect timing, because if one of the starting center backs goes down, you have an option there. Or if for whatever reason Hugo decides to switch any of them out, that Dominguez seems to be, up to match fitness, which is something he had been struggling with since, his career was a little bit in the air with going to Albania from Bolivia and then things not working out in Albania and then finally signing on with Chalatenango here. So anyway, we'll close off the match, the list. Some of the depth stuff is what we talk about with our guest, and I'll give that intro to him. Fortunately, this is a moment to talk with another member of the current team. He's someone that Hugo had been scouting for years. Things didn't necessarily work out exactly when the news broke on this player, but I think things work out for the best. And even in Russo Flores mentioned here a while ago that los tiempos de Dios son perfectos, and things have come full circle for this player. We were able to talk to none other than Eric Zavaleta, El Canelo. He took time to chat with us for a little bit just to describe, how this process has treated him, how it's been connecting with his father's country that's now feeling more and more like his country. Just the little quirks and idiosyncrasies that have come along the way, culture-wise, and then just the overall feeling that he's had joining the team. So without further ado, here's our chat with Toronto FC and La Selecta center back, Eric Zavaleta. So cool, man. Are you in Toronto right now, or where are you at?
Yeah, I am. We leave in the morning for Montreal.
Okay.
It's one of those where you're in and out. You fly in the morning of, play the game, fly out, and then I leave hopefully on Saturday to head down.
That's crazy. No, and how are you feeling now that it's go time? Basically, the list, the squad list was published today. Does it feel more real now, or how are you dealing with the prospect of the match?
I guess so. I mean, it's something that I think we've all been excited for a long time, and so it's felt real for a while. I think it feels like it was far away, and then all of a sudden it sort of creeps up on you and it's next week. But, this is what you play for. So I'm incredibly excited. I think I saw the roster. It's a lot of guys I know. Obviously, I think we brought a strong team and we're going to go for it. So I'm incredibly excited.
And just the fact that you guys open up against the U.S., what does that feel like for you? What kind of sensations does that bring up for you? Bittersweet at all, or does it just get you really excited and pumped up that you guys are dealing with the biggest team right now in the area? Obviously, being dual national, are you conflicted at all that you're going to be playing against one of your countries? Because one thing that we've gone over in this podcast is just making the emphasis that when you're a Salvadoran abroad, your loyalty isn't just necessarily to one country, and there's just something special in that. And sometimes people don't understand it if they're only from one place. So what kind of feelings does that bring up for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned a lot of them. Or honestly, I feel a ton of emotions. First of all, it's the first game of a huge qualifying process, right? And so I think no matter who we were to go up against, it's an important one. I mean, to try to set the tone, to do so at home. And yeah, for it to be the U.S. adds a whole nother dimension for me. I was speaking to somebody early today who was asking me about the anthems and what that might feel like. And obviously now I have a huge affinity and affection for both anthems and for both countries. And so I've been a fan on the sidelines for the U.S. Since I was playing for them. And now they're a rival, and they're somebody on our way. And so I think it's going to be a good test for us. I think coming off of a Gold Cup where we feel like we had good performances and some good results and some didn't go our way. And so now can we continue to test ourselves, and to make it known throughout CONCACAF that nobody's going to come down and have an easy game against us. And so I think all of those emotions are ahead of it. My dad hasn't been to El Salvador for like 40 years or something like that. Wow. And he's coming down to the game has to be it, because he said, I can't miss it. I got to be there for this. And so that brings on a whole nother set of emotions. So it's just all of it in one is just really exciting.
For sure.
And Eric, again, thanks for accepting the invite to be here with us at this in this podcast. It's interesting to talk about the subject of the dual nationals, and obviously right now it's a very interesting situation in El Salvador, because we actually have a few guys who are, half American, half Salvadorian, or born in the U.S. to Salvadorian parents, and sometimes there's always the subject about the players that are not born in El Salvador. They don't have the same feelings towards El Salvador, or that maybe they don't feel the colors in the same way. I obviously defer to that. I don't agree with that, but how does it feel for you to know that some people think that way? Because I'm sure you've probably seen it in social media. And how has the team welcomed you? Have you felt welcome? And was it an easy, was it easy for you to adapt to your new teammates? And did you feel welcome in the national team?
Well, first of all, of course, I would do this podcast. And it's no secret, Hugo's a big reason why I'm here today, and why I chose to wear the white, to wear the blue and white. And so, I think he's done a ton of some thankless work, and a ton of now work that's been recognized to get a lot of these dual nationals. I don't pay attention tons of times to social media anymore, to be honest with you. So if somebody said that to me, I haven't seen it. But as you said, we have a ton of love for this country. I mean, I felt the passion and the love for the game, for my country, when I was down there for my first game at home, and obviously to score a goal. And that's why I intentionally kissed the badge, because it meant everything to me to be able to score that goal at home, to represent the country, to wear the blue and white. And so I think all of us have a tremendous pride to be able to do this, to be able to represent this beautiful country at the highest level. And I think to your final point, and I think it's a really important one, in that the guys have really embraced us from day one. I think a big part of our success in early times has been because of that. And I think about that sometimes. I think potentially with Hugo Perez coming in, it was sort of like a rebirth and like a refresh for the national team. And so it felt less like we were intruding upon something that had already been created, and more like we were all starting something together. We could all look at each other and say, we're all here for the same reason, which is to try to bring the joy that we know we can, and bring it back for this country. And so it's been a wonderful experience so far. Everything I can ask for. It brings me a little bit of comfort also to have some other dual nationals with me. And I think it's created a trickle-down effect. Now we see Alex Roldan join on later in the process. And I hope it's something that continues, because I believe trying to get the best players, yes, is important, but also to show people that, listen, you're born in the US, you're born in Belgium, you're born wherever, it doesn't matter. If you've got the blood in you, you deserve to wear the jersey as well.
For sure. And you mentioned that your dad hasn't been to the country in several years. I'm assuming then that your first time in country was for the call up for the national team. How was that experience? How was the culture shock? What were some of the idiosyncrasies that you noticed? And then, as you mentioned, debut and goal at Cusca. What kind of resolution did that bring, in any sense, to all the jitters, maybe the anxiety, if possible, or just the expectation of making that debut?
Yeah, so I had gone through the country only to the airport, so I'd seen a little bit. Obviously, I'd seen a bunch of pictures, but I've never spent much time in the country. And so, yeah, it was really my first time. And sure, things are different. I mean, the U.S. and El Salvador are different countries. They're different countries in a lot of ways, and I felt like that was a really interesting part of it all. Obviously, the food is different. The way Americans eat, the way El Salvadorians eat are a little bit different, to be honest with you. The way I like to eat is probably a little bit more similar to the way El Salvadorians eat. I think that part was fun and interesting to me, and to sort of now figure out at that time, like, how am I going to fuel my body with sort of a new way of food to continue to try to perform, obviously, because ultimately that's what matters. But I don't know. I think some of the culture things that were different were I'm not used to cold showers. I think there are cold showers over there. I mean, ultimately, it is what it is. It's not a big deal. Like, you get used to it, but it's different. I think the pitches are a little bit different. And so things like that. And the grass is different. I mean, I think Cuscatlan, I think one thing people don't realize is a big advantage is that it's such a different type of pitch. It feels very different. It feels almost soft. And so being used to it, and the team being used to it, and opposing teams not having any idea what to expect or not having tons of experience of playing on it, I think creates an advantage. And so those things were different, but also a big reason why I wanted to come. I wanted to get out of my comfort zone. I wanted to learn more about the culture, and I wanted to experience it. And I was able to do all of those things. And to score the goal, it was, like I said, it was incredible. I mean, I think for multiple reasons. I think one, because obviously scoring goals is amazing, and to be able to celebrate in front of all the fans that were there, and to do it on my debut there and all those things, it was, I don't think I had tons of jitters, but it was a big goal in the game. Ultimately, I mean, we were in a really important process of trying to get ourselves to where we ultimately are now, which is the octagonal. And that was a game where 0-0 in like the 40th minute, something like that. And I feel like we had some chances, but we weren't able to put them away. And that goal sort of, I think, brought relief to the whole stadium, brought relief to the team. If you want to score goals like that as a player, you want to impact the team and try to help the team win. And so it was a dream come true. It was a moment in my career I'll never forget, and has fueled me to try to do that more and try to do that in this octagonal to get us results. Because as Hugo had told me many times in this recruiting, if you want to call it process, like, we haven't scored tons of set piece goals, and that's something I felt like I could bring, and that's something we talked about, and it's something now that we try to target, and hopefully it continues, and I can score a couple more to bring us another dimension.
Definitely. You mentioned the set pieces. That's something that has been difficult, especially for El Salvador to defend, I'd say, historically. And it is awesome to see that multifaceted aspect to your game, that not only are you helping out on the defensive end where the team has struggled traditionally, but now, we have a viable attack on set pieces offensively. And then defensively, how do you communicate with your center back partner or in the team? Because I noticed training, the last training before the game against Costa Rica, during a scrimmage, Garay and Danny Rios were communicating in English, which I thought was pretty interesting. How do you guys communicate on the pitch during the games?
Yeah, I mean, listen, my Spanish has gotten better. I'm practicing and trying to get it to be even better. Sometimes I'll speak Spanish to Ronald. And sometimes he's the beauty of the however many games, I don't even know how many it's been at this point, 7, 8, however many games we've played together now, is that you start to understand tendencies and the way people move and the way you guys work together and these kinds of things. And I think we've really created a partnership that I've really enjoyed, and I think he's enjoyed as well. And so sometimes it'll be in Spanish. If I need to, we'll bring somebody else involved to sort of translate us through it. But he's a smart player. He's somebody who I feel very comfortable knowing he's going to be in the right positions. I think vice versa. And you've seen a couple moments where I've needed to cover him and I've been right there for him, and vice versa. And that's all you can ask for from a center back partner, someone you trust, someone you can expect to be there when you need him. And he's been everything and more for me thus far. And I think the sky's the limit for that kid, because he really has big potential, and he already has proven that he can do it at a really high level.
Eric, take us back to, we talked about your debut at the Cuscatlan, score a goal. You were chosen as one of the captains of the national team. You don't necessarily speak the language, which was a big, factor that a lot of people were talking about, and yet you were chosen as one of the captains, which, that tells us a lot about you and your personality and the respect that you've earned from the players. I'll tell you what, in my early scouting reports and probably throughout the different coaches, I always said, Eric can, he can score goals. He used to be a center forward. So when you score that goal, man, I just couldn't stop celebrating that goal. It's like, I told you. But anyways, take us back to that. How was that moment of, how was the process of choosing the captains? And what was your initial thoughts when you found out that you were chosen as one of the captains for this, national team that you had just joined?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting part about all of it. And listen, we talked just briefly ago about being introduced with open arms, and this was another example of that. And it was like the third or fourth day I was there, and I had tried to have conversations with guys and sort of get to know people. Obviously, I think I got there, and a week later we had the game against the Virgin Islands, and then we were sort of in it. And so I wanted to try to adapt myself and get them to know me as quickly as possible. But it was also a new group trying to get to know each other. And so we, after dinner, just one night said, hey, listen, everybody stay after dinner and we're going to vote on captains. And everybody had a choice to vote for three. I did not vote for myself. You were able to vote for yourself. I did not vote for myself because I was new. I was new to the group. I was uncertain that I was the right leader for the group at the moment. I wanted to say I wanted to be, but I wasn't sure. And I've never been a captain at the professional level. I've always been a captain at youth levels, but I've never been a captain at professional level. And to be honest with you, something that I've craved and something I've been missing in my career. And so when it was announced, I felt a little bit surprised, and B, just a ton of respect and happiness that they felt that way about me. And ever since that day, I've tried to prove them right. Ultimately, I think they didn't know me well enough to make that decision. And I think any of them would tell you now that they made the right choice, and that maybe I'm even more of a captain than they could have even possibly thought at that possible moment. And so listen, wearing the armband for your country is an honor that I had never felt before, and was obviously a moment I'll never forget. And if I get to do it going forward again, I would love to. And so I'm just continually trying to, day in and day out, prove this is something I deserve, to try to lead this group forward, to try to give them confidence. And so I was surprised, but I also think it's a quality that I do possess. And fortunately, I've been able to prove that.
We talk a lot, or reference kind of video games sometimes, and unlocking achievements and leveling up. And I feel like the last couple of months has been that for you, in the sense of finally getting caps and getting that experience, this new facet to your career. How has it been balancing club and national team? Because that has been an issue that we've noticed for a lot of Salvadorans that have migrated and played outside of the country, that it tends to be a difficult process to balance the two, especially in MLS, considering that MLS has a very particular schedule in comparison to the other leagues in the world. How has that process been for you in working with your coach and keeping that confidence that you still have your spot when you get back from international duty?
Well, I think that's a really interesting question and one that I'm still honestly working through. I think I would say first, my club, Toronto FC, and the national team El Salvador have been incredible about making my life easy with travel, with understanding that I need to come on a certain day at a certain time and things like that. And so, but yeah, I mean, it's difficult. You want to take all the things you said and combine the idea that MLS started later this year because of COVID. The octagonal is in a different format than ever before. And add all of that, there's a fixture congestion that I've never had before in my career. And so if you were to ask my teammates, they would tell you they've had more off days than they've ever had in their career because of all the international breaks. And what I would tell you is I've never had less. I've probably only had a few, because when they're off, I'm away. And when I get back, we have games. And then you want to couple that with my club's been struggling. Like, we haven't won a ton of games. And so I felt the need to be available and to try to help them win those games. But all that to say, it's been difficult. It's a process that I'm still working through. I think the confidence, like you said, that I've got over the last couple of months of doing it at this level, of playing with the national team, of playing in a different setting, has been really useful for me. And I've gotten a really good run of games with Toronto FC. And so I hope to keep that spot. I hope to continue to push the envelope in MLS. I think it's something that I deserve. I think it's something that I've proven I can do. And I'm going to really push myself over these next few months, because again, there won't be many breaks, to play as many games as possible at the highest level possible, and let the chips fall as they may. But I've had to be really diligent about taking care of my body, because playing this many games is difficult. And we'll see over the next 14 games, teams are going to have to use some depth. We're going to have to use some depth. Every country is going to have to use some depth and see how much of a drop off, if any, there is. And I believe in our depth, and I believe that we have some professionals who can play a lot of games and make it an advantage for us rather than a disadvantage.
You speak to a very interesting point, Eric, because as Andres mentioned, in the past, it's been sort of a thing where when a Salvadorian player gets called up to the national team, somehow they get erased from their club in MLS specifically. And in your case, what I noticed is that after your return from the national team, you have actually gotten a lot more minutes with Toronto FC, which speaks to the great work that you did with the national team. But what I'm curious about, what I'm interested about knowing is, you personally as a player, do you feel any different coming back to club level, to Toronto FC? Do you feel any different when you step into a training or to play a game? Do you feel like your confidence level has, gone up because now you're an international player, you're playing, play the Gold Cup, now you're going to play World Cup qualifiers. Do you feel that it helps you, is it like a boost of confidence to know that now you might be seen different by your club because of your achievements in the international stage?
Yeah, I mean, I think the short answer is yes. I think I've gotten a huge boost of confidence. Maybe not so much because I think that the club enjoys that I play for the national team, but really just because when you play at this level, you play against good players and you get presented with challenges, and you see yourself, or at least I see myself, how can I handle these challenges? And I think thus far I've been able to handle a lot of them, and that gives you a lot of confidence. I think it's something I always would have told you guys I can do, and would have told myself I can do, but there's a difference between doing that and saying that. And I think I've been trying to show that so far. And so I think there's a lot of quality players in Toronto FC. There's a lot of quality players in El Salvador, and there's a lot of quality players I played against. And fortunately, I think environment is incredibly important. I think I've learned a lot already from Hugo and from playing with the national team. And I think that that's translated over to the club level. I feel like I'm at the prime of my career. I think I'm playing as well as I ever have. And I feel very, very strongly that those performances are not a blip on the radar. That's who I am, and that's what will continue from me. And so it's been a really, really good thing for my career. And it's also really given me some exciting things to look forward to in a tough stretch for my club as well.
Okay. And then kind of more on the lighter side, which kit so far has been your favorite with the national team?
Good question. I think the blue one from Gold Cup.
Nice. Do you think you guys are going to be able to wear the third kit that came out?
So here's a funny story.
Okay.
So we're in the locker room against Mexico, and Jerson walks in, and he's wearing this black kit. And I looked over to Josh and to Alex Roldan, and I said, I've seen that kit all over social media, but I've never seen that kit. No one's ever handed me that kit. Like, why can't we should wear that for this game? It's a big game. People are watching. And Jerson said, it's pretty funny, but I've never debuted a jersey as a coach. And now I'm going to be the one to debut the jersey. So I don't know if we'll ever wear that jersey. I don't know if they've printed names on that jersey. I don't know if they've printed my size in that jersey, but I've seen Hugo wear it. I've seen Jerson wear it. I've seen some coaches wear it. So at least somebody's wearing it. I think that might be the best kit we have in total. Obviously the blue and the white are very historic and, but at the same time, I think it's cool. I think it's different. And I'm hoping we get to debut that kit on the field here one of these days.
Definitely. It is. I'd say it's probably one of my favorite ones in like the last 20 years or so. And then almost to close out. So my brother is in high school. He plays high school ball, and he told me to ask you, what do you do to psych yourself up for important games? Like, let's say the game against the U.S. How do you prep mentally for it? What's routine? Do you bump any beats in particular? Do you have particular songs that get you really like pumped up or psyched for the match?
All right. So I'll take this question a little bit, two parts. One, you don't need to get yourself psyched up to play against the United States in a World Cup qualifier. So that part of it, I'm actually good. I do listen to music. I think music's a really, I love music in general, but I think music's a really therapeutic thing to do, listening to music. And I think obviously most locker rooms listen to it. Obviously, when I'm in Toronto, the music's a little different than when I'm in El Salvador. But I think all of it is excellent, and I love to listen to music, and that is probably the last thing I'll do. My routine is pretty stringent on game days. I won't go through it all. I'll bore people, but I do have a specific routine that I've done for, I don't know, maybe the last 8 years of my career. I sort of figured it out my rookie year. And so I'll go through that routine that includes a nap during the day. And then I think the key piece, and I think this is a piece for young players. I think this is a piece for young professionals. I think this is even a piece for older professionals, is I meditate. I think it's, I use visualization, and I use meditation to get my mind ready for the game ahead. And so I think that's something that I figured out throughout my career. But I've created this routine that every game is a game, and so you prepare for it the same way. But going back to what I said at the beginning, some of these big games, they're the most fun. They're the ones that you can't wait. The day goes so long because you can't wait to get it started. And sometimes my naps go really easily, and sometimes on games like that, it takes really hard for me to fall asleep. But I try to do the same things. I definitely prepare my mind to get it going, and then when it's game time, it's time to take a little caffeine, listen to some music, and get ready to go compete.
What do they call you? What do your teammates call you on the field? Eric?
They call me Zab.
Or Zab?
Zap. For some, I think maybe it was at Chivas. Honestly, that became my nickname, and then people that don't even know me or never played with me, it was always that. But that's obviously not my nickname when I'm with El Salvador.
No, what's your nickname with El Salvador? Is it Eric or is it Canelo, or what do they call you on a game day? Like when you're playing on a pitch, if they need to call something to your attention, what do they call you?
It's either Chalon or Canelo, but that's honestly it. Honestly, I don't think anybody calls me Eric for sure. Maybe they'll say like Zavaleta or something.
So Chalon, you said?
Yeah, Chalon.
Do you know what that means?
Yeah, I do know what that means.
Yeah,
I had to ask, but yeah, no, it's all in good fun. And to me, like, it's just another name. And I know who you're talking about for sure when you say those things. And so I have no problem with it.
Besides your father, do you have any other family member going to the game? Perhaps your wife or anyone else?
I wanted to get my wife down. It wasn't possible. So no, he's got a friend he used to play with when he was there. Lots of his family migrated to the U.S. when he did, and so he doesn't have tons of family down there anymore. So it's just him. But I mean, if you know anything about me, having him in the stands for that game will be special.
For sure. And we have a lot of listeners that are going to be making the trip down. Do you have like any message for them prior to the series coming up with the Octagonal?
My biggest message is thank you for coming down. I think I don't know how much fans realize how important they are to us. I think one of the things that has been said to me most when I come back to Toronto is, wow, your fans are incredible. Wow, they travel so well. Wow, they make such an impact. Wow, they're cheering very passionately. All kinds of things like that. I think it's a really big draw to the federation, to the national team, to the country. And I can't thank them enough. I think when we talk about getting up for a game, I mean, sometimes in tough games, they bring you back to life. And so we're preparing as hard as we possibly can to bring them joy, to bring them celebration before a game, during a game, and after a game. And we're thankful for everything they do.
Cool, man. Well, thanks a lot for taking the time. And obviously we wish you the best with the upcoming matches. It's something exciting considering that El Salvador hasn't gotten to this instance of the qualifying tournament. So we'll all be glued to our TVs and wishing you guys the best. So go get them.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. We will hopefully have another one of these one day and talk about how successful they went.
Sure.
Yeah. Hey, I'm curious. The game against Canada, is it at Toronto Stadium?
Another really good point. It is.
Yeah.
Which would be incredible. I do have some family that's going to come up to that, and my entire team, they haven't stopped talking about that. They're incredibly excited too. And I've actually gotten a lot of messages on social media of Salvadorians who are up here in Toronto who are going to be at that game too. So hopefully we've got some blue and white in that crowd too.
Has the Federation used you at all as like a liaison to like try and figure out which is like the best area to stay at or anything like that, or no?
Listen, you guys should need to be in with the Federation more, because these are incredible questions. I've been thinking about that so much over the last week and have heard nothing. So I was talking to my mom the other day and she was like, okay, well, where will you be staying? I was like, I honestly have no idea, but I have all the answers if they need them. This is like a second home to me, but wherever they choose will be fine.
For sure, man. All right. Well, we won't take more of your time. Take it easy. And again, thanks a lot, man. And good luck.
Of course.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay. Good luck. Take care.
You too.
And there you have it. That was the interview with Eric Zavaleta. Again, thank you so much, Eric, for taking the time and chatting with us, because, you know, the guy's been busy the last couple of months and it's only going to get even more busy for him. So we definitely appreciate that. And, you know, we're really happy to have that opportunity to talk with players and see what they go through, what goes on in the for the human, not just the number on the kit or the person on TV. Like, these are real people, ladies and gentlemen. So it's definitely cool to be able to connect with the players and see what's happening behind the scenes. And I think, if anything, you see that this guy is really grounded, really centered, and is definitely enjoying this opportunity that he's been given. And it seems to have happened, at pretty much at the right time. There's this change in the coaching staff. The qualifying round was ideal, where not too much was on the line, so he could get adjusted to his new team, new stadium, traveling and whatnot. And then having the Copa Oro right after to kind of just solidify his status and stature with the team right in time for the big matches. Hugo, you've chatted with him and been in contact with him throughout all these years. How does it make you feel seeing him finally dressing up with the blue kit, representing El Salvador, and going into these special matches, the match against the US or playing Canada in Toronto? How does that make you feel?
It's, there's a sense of pride. I mean, I feel proud of the vision that I had, that I started 11 years ago. And Eric is, like, I was thinking about it the other day, how many more players are left, from, those original discoveries, from the early selected talent days. But Eric is one of them. I mean, I clearly remember, editing videos of him playing in Tijuana, the qualifiers for the U17, the United States U17, and looking at him and being like, wow, it'd be great to have this guy playing for us. And, it's been a process of, some of these things where he was very close 2 years ago, actually more than that, even during the Roca days. And, things didn't happen for one reason or another. And it's fun to see him now out there and seeing the impact, the instant impact that he's had in the national team. It for me, it's kind of like a fuel for me. Like, it motivates me to keep going and discovering new players and wondering, like, who's going to be the next Eric or who's going to be the next Enrico. It's for me, it's like, okay, I get the moment, I enjoy it, it happened, and then I kind of move on and trying to find the next one. And I'm happy. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the national team. I'm happy for me, for the fans, that we get to, with, contributions from some players, from all the national team. At the end of the day, it's just the national team, but from, contribution from players that may be playing at a higher level, that our national team becomes a stronger national team, and we are able to compete at a higher level against stronger teams, like we saw in the Gold Cup. We play pretty solid games against Mexico, against Qatar, and it's fulfilling to be able to see the impact that some of those players have in the national team.
It's the right time. There's that stability surrounding the national team that hasn't been there for a while. And I mean, it would have been dope if you would have, made the decision during the Roca years, but we all know the instability surrounding the national team at that time, because it would have been such a bummer that he accepts the call for El Salvador, and then all of a sudden, all the instability hits with Roca's departure. And up until now, basically. And I think we're noticing an upward trend, at least with how the FESFUT is realizing, if you put in tantito más in different facets of trying to modernize the national team, of upkeeping its level of professionalism, that it'll pay off. I don't know. To me, Zabaleta joining up and being, our go-to center back just kind of reminds me of Purdy back in the day, but I guess in the international scene, it kind of reminds me of what Virgil van Dijk's done for Liverpool, in a sense that there's just like solidifying the back, that there's this confidence in the back that El Salvador hasn't had for years, especially at the center back position. I feel like the tendency with our center backs historically is they're out of huevos, but usually the center back has to be a hothead that doesn't take bullshit from anybody, but that leads to kicks in the box, fouls in the box, red cards, fights, expulsions, and disaster. And to hear that the center back for El Salvador currently does meditation and works on keeping himself centered and focused on matches is very refreshing, considering some of the people that have played his position in the past. So I think this is another example of how football, soccer has changed. And this is an important piece that Hugo Perez has found in Zabaleta, and hopefully that leadership helps carry throughout this round. And there's nothing more exciting to see, a leader that has emerged, especially in the center back position, where we need people with ice in their veins, or be able to focus and focus on the objectives and not necessarily just go away with their emotions, like we've seen time and time again. So I'm looking forward to the matches coming up. We'll see how often we're able to churn out some of these episodes, ladies and gentlemen, because there are 3 within a week. Maybe we'll be able to do like short 30-minute episodes after each match. If we win, for sure, I think we'll be motivated enough to just get this off our chest and connect with all y'all. If we lose, there might be some crickets there, but we'll do our best to churn out these episodes. It's rough when you have kids, when this is like a side thing. I wouldn't call it a hobby, because we put in our time and effort in trying to make the best possible show for you guys, and we're seeing the fruits of it. Like we mentioned, it's the first year of us doing this. I cannot thank the guests that we've had enough, because without them, we wouldn't have a show. Obviously, I'd like to thank Hugo, because you've taken the time to do these shows. And I remember you were down basically from the get-go, because we were in the middle of COVID trying to find stuff to do. And you were totally down with doing the show. So I appreciate you taking the time, and that enthusiasm that you bring to something like this. And of course, I'd like to thank all of y'all that follow us, subscribe, listen, comment, interact with us, because we're nothing without you guys. And it's tight knowing that we're connecting with people, that this show's hitting a note with the Salvadorans abroad and even in El Salvador. So thank you guys. I also want to give a shout out to our graphic designer, or the person in charge of all our logos. That's Armando Peraza. So thank you for all your hard work and making us look somewhat professional. So, because he gave me all like the logos and stuff, and then I tinker around with Photoshop. But thanks again to him. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Ale Medina and Lib Danel for producing the beat for the video of the footage from the Costa Rica match. So if you haven't checked it out, I posted it on our Instagram, Corner Blue Podcast on Instagram. It's posted on our Facebook, and as well as on Twitter. So if you want to check out some, hopefully you consider it decent HD footage of the behind the scenes for the Selecta match, definitely check that out. It was a lot of fun. I'd also like to ask our fans, would you prefer us to keep our intro music, the track that we have for now, or do you like the track that we used for the Costa Rica video, and do you want us to make that our intro music, considering that it's like original, it's made by Salvi artists, and then the one that we're using right now is kind of like, royalty free music that I bootlegged off of YouTube. So in any case, let us know, which one do you prefer? If you want to break from the tradition of the first year, let me know, or we'll keep it, because I don't mind either. But just trying to put a feeler out there. For those of you making the trek down, quickly, I just want to, if you have any questions on, what it's like going to Cusca, hit us up in the DMs, because I have certain recommendations. The number one recommendation I would give you is make sure you have a cell phone with you in El Salvador. And the way to do it is either take an old one that you have or your current one, if you don't mind, whisking it around, see that at all. But it's important to go buy a chip from one of the cell phone companies in El Salvador. You have to do it with your passport, but it's really important to have that chip, just so that you can have communication, because it basically saves you from a big hassle, because there's nothing like being able to contact your transportation, whether it's a private company that does transportation, or a taxi driver, or your family. My biggest recommendation is go buy a chip for your cell phone, and then you can put some saldo on it and then just stay connected. That would, if you don't have an international plan, that would be my number one. And then other than that, hopefully your family that you're staying with is cool with you coming and going, or else you're gonna have to negotiate some stuff there or stay at a hotel. But I'd say yes, the main thing is having a phone, the right transportation, and get there early, because who knows if there's going to be any issues with the new app that's being used for the tickets. But it's also fun to get there like 4 hours early, go buy the food that's available there, the panes mataninos, if you're feeling lucky. But there's choripanes there, obviously the beer, so then you can basically tailgate inside the stadium. That's what I would recommend. And we're going to close out. Thanks again. Can't wait for the matches coming up. I'm glad you listened to this episode, whether you're one of the OG fans from the beginning or you're new and just found us a couple days ago. But it's a great feeling knowing that, we're accompanying you on your drive from home to home, from work or to work or at work, or it's the weekend or you're doing dishes, whatever it is. Thank you for listening. And Uul, do you have anything to say?
No, just that if they prefer to have El Atol de Lote as the intro music, let us know.
Yeah, we'll work on the rights.
We'll talk to Jose.
Yeah.
Or El Baile del Sapito, those the old school stuff,
Or Yo Soy Guanaco from Fiebre Maria. It's definitely an underrated Salvadoran song that gets me pumped up.
No, but seriously, thank you all for listening to our podcast. It keeps us going. Talk to your friends about it. Friends who might not speak Spanish, but they're Salvadorian. They follow the national team. Or those who only speak Spanish and are trying to learn English. At least they're going to understand a few Spanglish words that we throw in there every now and then.
And Uul would throw in a lot of more bad words if he could, but se porta bien.
Yeah, not my style. Cerotes.
No. I'm keeping that one in. You always bust that out, and I edit them out. I'm keeping that.
No, but thank you, seriously. And it's always nice to get to know you. Someday we'll probably do a get together somewhere in LA, or maybe at a vineyard in Napa Valley or Sonoma or something like that.
All right. Well, with that, thanks guys, and we'll catch you guys next time here on the Corner Blue. Take it easy.